Hello, I'm Farron, and in this Hytale video, I'm going to start a slightly bigger project than normal, and I'm going to work on building a Pirate's Cove. After a few weeks of learning World Gen V2, I want to take things back to a normal build and give my mind a bit of a rest. However, I want to make something epic, so I'm going to push myself to go bigger than I ever have before in any video. This build might take me multiple parts because I want to see what happens if I don't limit myself to just a single week. I hope you'll stick with me and enjoy this build journey, and now, let's get stuck in. I want to build this Pirate Cove from scratch, so I'm going to do it here in the middle of nowhere in a patch of ocean. It's just off the east coast of the zone where I've been building everything else like my factory and my racetrack. The thing that really excites me about building a pirate ship at this time in Hytale's development is that we just got in Update 4 a bunch of blocks that might help with this, so let me show them. Here on the screen, you can see that there are now half slabs and stairs for all of the cloth blocks. And I think that's really going to help me with shaping the sails of the ships. I'm going to start building a pirate ship. So, similar to how we did the base of the airship, let's get started with that side-on view. In those time lapses, I've roughed out the shape of my ship, and it's looking pretty cool. It's a bit bigger than I thought it'd be, but that's a good thing because it will make it feel different. I want to make sure that this doesn't look like the airship that I made, so I've gone for more verticality to help things feel more pirate ship-like. With the process on this ship, and pretty much every other ship I make in this video, I start by making things 2D, and then I make them 3D, because to me, that's the easiest approach when you're making something complex like this. I think this is a great start, but now I have to focus on details, and I want to introduce some other blocks so that I can get some different colors into the build and make this whole thing look even cooler. So that's what I'm going to do in the next time lapses. I've now managed to work my way around the whole ship and add a whole load of details, and I'm really happy with it. I think it's significantly different enough from my airship and the details that I did on that, so that it stands alone and looks like its own cool thing. I managed to work on the details at the back, and I've even managed to add a little rudder. I don't know if a rudder of that size would even actually be able to steer a ship like this, but I don't know. But I've given it a go, at least I've tried to make one. I think the next thing that I've got to focus on is the sails. They're going to be the big feature of this ship. And hopefully they're going to look really, really cool, but I don't yet know how I'm going to build them. So in these time lapses, expect me to do a bit of back and forth to show, different ideas and what works best.
Storms on the roof, secrets whispered.
Now I've got some pretty cool sails to go on my ship. And in the end, I've gone with 4 masts with lots of sails all over them. I think it's 8 sails. And for my sails, I've basically tried to make it look like the wind is blowing the sails so that they curve in the middle. And I think that kind of dynamism really helps the build look really cool. So if you're building a pirate ship, my big tip to you for the sails is make the sails curved and look like they've got the wind pushing them. In fact, the more dynamic and the more curved you make your sails, the better they'll probably look. And I literally just used cloth to basically draw like an arch between the 2 mast parts. And that's how I got my sails. I did go a little bit more complicated because I also tried to round the sides of my sails as well as the tops and bottoms. So it did get pretty complicated with the shaping in the end. But it looks really good and it was well worth it. And I'm really happy with how these sails have initially turned out. Although I do change them, but it's the same sort of vibes. In the next time lapses, I'm basically going to finish this ship because I'm going to decorate all of the decks, go inside and decorate the interior, and I'm going to fix the back of the sails, which currently look a bit messy. The ship is basically complete and it looks really, really awesome. I'm not sure if I might make a few more tiny tweaks towards the end of the video for the final reveals, but for now, I'm really happy with this. It's got detail all over, it's got a full interior, and it's got all the lovely sails that make it look really, really cool. So what I need to do now is work on a few more ships because just one ship isn't really going to help me with this big Pirates Cove build. I need to make loads. So we're going to make some smaller ones, I think, first, and then we're going to work on a few other big ones, maybe some color variations of this same exact model, and maybe some different models as well. So let's get cracking. Two more ships have now been built, and this means we've got a tiny fleet. In fact, we've got a teeny tiny little ship here, just so small, just small enough for you to walk around on. I always like to make sure that you can actually walk around on things, but there's no interior, and this one really is nice and small. And I do like it. It's nice, simple, but I think it will look effective when I dot it around the Pirates Cove. We also built a slightly bigger ship, but still quite a small ship, just 2 sails on this one. And yeah, it's kind of similar in its shape and vibe to the other one, just a lot smaller. There's a lot of good fun little details on this ship, and I really like it. And the thing you've got to remember is that I'm going to be sinking these ships down into the water a bit more. At the moment, I've built them above the water just so I could see what I was doing, but they do need to be sunk. So this one probably gets sunk 1 or 2 blocks, and that one will sink to maybe 3 or 4 blocks. I have done an interior for this one as well, and I'll show that at the end when I do all the reveals for the insides of the ships. But now we need to keep working on more ships because we can't just have 3. I'm thinking we've got to have a few more variations of ships, and I want to do something special for one ship. So what we're going to try next is we're going to try and build some kind of ghost ship. Think like the Flying Dutchman from Pirates of the Caribbean, but without the fish people, more of like a ghosty vibe. So now the ghost ship is complete. We have a completely different type of ship. So, okay, maybe the shape is the same, but all the colors and the blocks are completely different from the other ships we've made so far. This one is also quite a nice medium size. So it's a bit bigger than our smallest one, but definitely a bit smaller than the big one over there. And so we've got a good size here. And I think that actually means I could turn this into a normal pirate ship by changing the color palette of all the blocks. But we've got lots of chains on this one. I just thought chains seem spookier. And we've got some different colors and some variations. I even used zinc metal for the cannons to give them a nice sort of bluish green color. And I've done this thing with these source blocks where I've created these patches of light coming out. And I think that's really cool. It sort of shows that there's like a ghostly glow emanating from the middle of the ship, which, yeah, is really, really cool. Don't know what this strange piece of flower is doing on the outside. But we're going to break everything except that, apparently. What we've got to do next is work on another pirate ship, and I want a slightly small one, maybe about the similar-ish size or a little bit smaller than this one, and I want it to be inspired by Chinese pirate ships, and the way that those sails look different and the shaping of the ship is slightly different. So that's what I'm going to use, but this is going to be a fantasy ship, so I'm going to kind of do my own thing. It's just inspired by those kinds of pirate ships from history. So we're going to build that over here in the next few time lapses. And the next pirate ship is done. Look at this one. It's so cool. We've got different shaped sails. We've got an overall different kind of shape to the ship. And I approached this one with squares, which was a very weird and different approach to the way that I've been doing the other ones. But it's turned out really, really cool. And I like the details. I like the flags. I like all the dynamism of the sails and all the blocks that we've got going on. And I've detailed the whole thing. And of course, I'll show you the interiors when I do a few more reveals at the end of the video. And now we have to think about what's next. And I've got one more ship planned for this video. And that ship is going to be a reference, something in pop culture that you may or may not have heard of. If you know, you know. Sometimes it's nice to put away all the thinking and just copy something that already exists, but turning it into Hytale blocks can be quite a fun little challenge. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to try and turn something into Hytale blocks. As we get to the end of this build, we're going to go into some final reveal flyover clips like I normally do, but they're going to be kind of short because you have kind of already seen what all the pirate ships look like. What we've got to do now is show you the insides because I always like to do my interiors and I want to show them to you. We're going to start over here, and on this lovely ship here, we are going to have a quick look around the deck, which is very nice. And you can climb ladders. I tried to make sure there's ladders up all of the masts so that you can get to, you know, all the tops of the sails where you might need to get to. And here we have the top here, which actually has a little house like area, living area in it. And in here is just some beds. Nice and simple. Nothing too crazy. And if we go down into the main area, this is like the captain's cabin. And we've got lots of lovely tables and decorations here. And I like the way this one feels kind of small and cramped, but still like there's loads of detail and there's lots going on. And I really like it. And it's really cool. And now we can go below deck and have a look at the rest of the ship down there. And we've got a nice big open area for this one. We've got seating, and then we've got some rooms, because this one I imagined was more like a fishing and travel vessel. So, you know, maybe people come and stay in these rooms. Each of the rooms is just the same. I didn't do anything too fancy on those. And then we've got some crew sleeping quarters here. And unfortunately, the crew don't have the best beds, but, you know, they're doing all right. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the ship. I didn't do another layer because it's not really deep enough down below to do that. So that's this one. Now, if we move to the big one and show you some of the interior here, there's a lot of interior to this one. There's this big open area here at the front. We can go down and you can go up because we've got this big, like, lumpy bit at the front of the ship. And here we've got tables and storage. And here I had this idea for like this kitchen area But what if the tables were actually like attached to it? So you sit here, kind of like a bar, and the food just comes out and it goes straight on the table and you start eating it. Keeps things nice and efficient and provides loads of seating areas for the pirates. We've got lots of cannons in this one. I've got 8 cannons on this one. That's, plenty of firepower for a ship this size. We are also flooding. This is where I've moved the ship. When I've done the prefabs, I've selected air, but for this one, because I was moving the ships around, I've actually ended up flooding the ship. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back in a second, and this will be gone. But first, let's have a look at the last room up here. And that is the bedroom / sleeping area for all the crew. Lots of nice sort of bunk bed style bedding here. And now, let's transition and get rid of this water so we can look at the bottom deck. And I'm back, and the ship is no longer sinking to the murky depths. Down here, we've got some storage, and we've got lots more storage, and then we've got even more storage, and then we've got a nice lift. I did this on the airship. I just really like this feature in my ships, okay? So, whatever. And I've got lots of storage, more storage, so much storage on this level. And then here we've got some brigs. Put them down in the brigs, the baddies. When you capture 4 people. Although, to be honest, these are the pirates, so they're probably the bad guys. And yeah, they're capturing poor people that they're going to stick in their brig and throw overboard to the sharks, no doubt. And this is the treasure room, because pirates hoard treasure, so they've got a place to store it in this ship. All right, and that's a quick look at that ship. Now let's look at the next ship. We're going to go to this small little ship over here. It's, nice and small and not too much going on. But here in the cabin, we have a captain's cabin, classic desk, map, treasure, ink pot, bed, everything you need. And then if we go down below deck, of which I always like to try and build a nice set of stairs and not just use a ladder for these. We have a place for the crew to sleep. This is a very small crew for this ship, and a place for them to eat and cook. Nothing too complicated, and this one just has 2 cannons because, it's a lot smaller. And that's a look at this ship, and this ship was really, really cool. There is a tiny bit of detail here, and I haven't yet put a steering wheel on most of these just because, I don't know, I had the shield idea for the other one. It's an entity I put down, but it doesn't really look like a steering wheel for a ship. So maybe I'll make one, or maybe someone else will have made one that I can use in the future. Next up, let's have a quick look at this small thing. This is obviously not much of an interior to check out, but it's cool that you can walk around on it. Although I did show that when I was building it, so I won't stay here any longer. Now this thing, this ghost ship, I just really like the ghost ship. I think it's really, really cool. And if you come on deck, you can see there's loads of detail on all the floors. And if we go inside, yep, I did an interior. There's even a spooky captain's cabin. Pretty similar vibes, but just a bit more spooky, and he's got ghostly plants and, purple cauldrons and spooky fire. And it's very cool. I like it in here. If we go down below deck, then, there's holes in everything on this one, so you can just cheat and go there. We have cannons with eerie sort of bluey-ish, glowy metal. We have the sleeping area for this one is a little bit different. Can't imagine why, but, there it is. And yeah, sleeping and sitting and, cooking. It's all here on this floor. And then down below, we have a similar thing going on. We have a brig just to, put people in. And then we have a bit of storage, a weird statue. Just thought that looked kind of spooky. And in here, we have like some kind of weird ritual room. I like that this is maybe where the stuff that turned this into a ghost ship happened. And then last, but not least, we have the Going Merry, which actually turned out quite cool. And I'm very surprised at how this worked. And if you didn't know, this is a pirate ship from One Piece. And I've tried to copy it as best as I can, but obviously it won't be perfect. But we have the ram's head. We even have the symbol on the flag. And we even have the weird red and sort of, beige flag over here. That's a nice, interesting triangular shape. Really like the shape of that. And it took a little minute to shape it up, but it turned out quite nice in the end. But the Going Merry has a big front deck, which just has a small bit here. I left it mainly open because I feel like this is an area where the characters train or, do things where you need a lot of space, like work out or whatever. Here down in the lower part, there is a way to get down below deck with trapdoors, which is pretty cool. But here at the front, we have a cannon and storage room. So there's a cannon that sticks out the front of this ship, and there's some storage and some weird plants because the One Piece crew are always going to weird places. So they would always get weird vegetation. So, Awesome. Now, over here on this side, we have a small hallway that allows you to do the cannons on the side. Now, at the back here, I did something a bit different. I think when I looked online at how the layout of the ship works, this might actually be where the bathroom's supposed to be. But I decided that because my room upstairs can't be big enough to have a proper galley in it, I wanted to have a galley down here. Because Sanji is one of my favorite characters, and he does lots of chef and cooking stuff, and I wanted to give him a kitchen worthy of his skills. So this is what we've got, a huge kitchen. If we go up the stairs and we go into the top cabin here, this is kind of like a meeting room for the whole crew. And I've got a little pinkberry here, which I wanted to sort of suggest is a devil fruit. And then you've got the usual map and treasure and stuff. Around the side of the ship, there is a way to get to the back deck. And there is a small deck here. Again, don't know what the crew uses for, maybe working out or training or things like that. But there are some small stairs to take you up to the main area of the ship where you can control the ship. Once again, no steering wheel for the ship. Not exactly sure the best way to do that. Could stick that shield entity in if I wanted to, but I didn't for now. Lastly, let's head down into the bowels of the ship. And there's only one floor on this ship, and I tried to follow roughly what was going on here. But this is where I moved the bathroom to because I couldn't have it at the back because I wanted that to be a kitchen. So I made a little bathroom. Here's a shower, and here's a sink, and then here's, you know, where you relieve yourself. And yeah, it's cool. In this room, this is where Nami would stay. So this is kind of like the women's quarters. And there's also books here because Nami's navigator and she likes to read and stuff. And obviously treasure. There's always treasure. And over here we have the men's room. And there are 4 beds here because there are 4 men in the crew at the start of the series. So that's what I went for. And yeah, it's a much bigger area. It curves around the front. I don't think this is exactly what it looks like when you look at like the blueprints of the ship, but I sort of worked with what I had and came up with something that I quite like. It's very difficult to do the spirals. There's supposed to be spirally things here, but I didn't really know how to do spirals. So yeah, a bit tricky that one. But overall, that is a look at all 6 of the ships, or 5 of the ships and 1 boat, I think. And look at this view. This is such a lovely view. We've got sparkly water, we've got a nice sun, and we've got all of our ships ready to go for the next parts where we're going to need them in the future. So what I want to do is not jump to an outro today. We're just going to say goodbye here, and I'll see you in the next part. Hope you enjoyed my video, and don't forget about my creator code if you'd like to support me because you enjoy my videos. Thanks very much. Hope you join me for the next one.